In the heart of the dense Guyanese jungle, a chilling silence hangs heavy in the air. This was once the site of Jonestown, a supposed utopian paradise that became the stage for one of the most horrific and misunderstood tragedies of the 20th century. On November 18, 1978, over 900 men, women, and children, members of the People's Temple led by the charismatic and terrifying Jim Jones, died in a mass murder-suicide. But this was not a simple act of collective despair. It was the culmination of years of manipulation, fear, and absolute control. This is the story of how a dream of a perfect society descended into a nightmare of death. Remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. And for more in-depth content, we're coming soon to Substack. The story of Jonestown begins not in the jungles of South America, but in the heartland of America. James Warren Jones, born in rural Indiana in 1931, was a charismatic preacher who founded the People's Temple in the 1950s. His message was one of racial equality and social justice, a powerful draw in a deeply segregated America. The temple was a vibrant, integrated community, a beacon of hope for many who felt disenfranchised and forgotten. They ran soup kitchens, provided legal aid, and offered a powerful sense of belonging. But beneath the surface of this progressive ministry, a darker current was flowing. Jones began to demand absolute loyalty from his followers. He proclaimed himself a messianic figure, performing staged healings and manipulating his congregation with a mix of love bombing and fear. Families were encouraged to sever ties with the outside world, and all assets were to be turned over to the temple. Jones was their father, their provider, their God. As the temple grew in power and influence, so did the whispers of abuse. Former members spoke of brutal beatings, public humiliation, and financial exploitation. To escape the increasing scrutiny from the media and concerned relatives, Jones orchestrated the temple's great exodus. He had secured a remote tract of land in the small South American nation of Guyana, promising his followers a socialist paradise, far from the evils of capitalist America. They called it the People's Temple Agricultural Project, but the world would come to know it as Jonestown. Life in Jonestown was a far cry from the utopia Jones had promised. The initial optimism quickly faded as the harsh reality of their new life set in. Settlers worked grueling 11-hour days, 6 days a week, hacking away at the dense jungle under the sweltering tropical sun. Their diet was meager, often consisting of little more than rice and beans. All communication with the outside world was censored, and armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Jonestown was not a paradise, it was a prison camp. Jones's paranoia and drug use spiraled. He controlled his followers through a constant barrage of propaganda, his voice echoing from loudspeakers throughout the settlement day and night. He spoke of conspiracies and enemies, warning that the outside world was plotting to destroy them. He began to conduct terrifying loyalty tests he called White Nights, where his followers would be awakened by sirens and forced to drink a red liquid they were told was poison. It was a dress rehearsal for death. By 1978, the situation had become desperate. A group of concerned relatives, made up of former members and families of those still in Jonestown, began to lobby the U.S. government for an investigation. Their pleas reached Congressman Leo Ryan of California, a man with a reputation for taking on tough causes. In November 1978, Ryan announced he would lead a fact-finding mission to Jonestown. On November 17, 1978, Congressman Ryan, along with a delegation of journalists and concerned relatives, arrived in Jonestown. They were greeted with a staged celebration, a carefully orchestrated performance of happy, contented settlers. But the facade soon began to crack. During the festivities, a temple member secretly passed a note to an NBC newsman, begging for help. The note, "Please help us get out of Jonestown." The next day, as Ryan's delegation prepared to leave, it was clear they would not be going alone. 16 temple members had bravely decided to defect. As the group boarded 2 small planes at the nearby Port Katuma airstrip, the carefully constructed world of Jim Jones began to violently unravel. A tractor pulling a trailer full of Jones's elite security guards, the Red Brigade, sped onto the runway and opened fire. In a hail of bullets, Congressman Leo Ryan was killed, along with 3 journalists and one of the defectors. It was an act of shocking violence that sealed the fate of everyone left in Jonestown. Back at the settlement, Jones's voice boomed over the loudspeakers, announcing that the congressman was dead and that their time had come. He called for revolutionary suicide. What followed was not a mass suicide, but a mass murder. Vats of grape-flavored drink laced with a deadly cocktail of cyanide and tranquilizers were brought out. The children were the first to die, their mothers forcing the poison down their throats with syringes. The sounds of children screaming and crying filled the air, a horrifying soundtrack to the final agonizing moments of Jonestown. Armed guards surrounded the pavilion, ensuring no one could escape. In the end, 918 people lay dead, a third of them children. Jim Jones was found dead on his makeshift throne, a single gunshot wound to his head. The death tape, a chilling 44-minute audio recording of the final moments, captured the horror and the coercion, a final twisted sermon from a madman who had led his flock to their doom. The Jonestown massacre shocked the world and left a permanent scar on our collective consciousness. It is a story of the seductive power of a charismatic leader and the dangers of blind faith. It is a reminder that the line between utopia and dystopia, between salvation and damnation, can be terrifyingly thin. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe for future episodes from the Calendar of Crime.